Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday morning show where ASI's most outspoken editors talk promo products and so much more. I'm Andy Cohen, editor of Counselor Magazine, and I'm joined by Nate Kuzma today. Nate is our director of research here at ASI. Nate, how are you?
I'm great. Also, the most outspoken market research people at ASI, not only editors.
It's true. We have outspoken people all across the world here. Some are editors, some are research people, but Nate only talks in data.
Is that what I do? I think you're 100% wrong about that.
Well, I guess we'll find out over the next few minutes. But Nate, thanks for joining us. We have a special guest that's going to be joining us on the line today. Her name is Heather Lutzy, and she's the founder of Findability University, which is a training and consulting company that helps their clients with online marketing efforts. Heather is also a highly rated speaker at the ASI shows. So let's bring Heather into the conversation. Heather, how are you today?
Good morning. I'm fantastic.
Great. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to talk about all sorts of aspects of online marketing today. So let me just start off with this. What one step should small businesses take today to improve their online presence?
Based on my experience in talking with a lot of ASI members over the last year, I think that what I see is a lot of focus around what they want to sell, what they want to get rid of, what they need to move in their inventory, what more do they need to produce. And it's sort of what I call the me show, right? It's all about me. It's all about my business. It's all about what I need to achieve this next year. And what I want to encourage ASI members is to think about their customers first and their actual business needs second, especially with online marketing.
So Heather, I guess my question is, when you have, you can have the world's best website, but if it's not being picked up by search engines, there's really no chance that unless a customer types in your exact address, they're going to find you. So what steps can companies take to ensure their websites are being picked up by the leading search engines?
Sure. And some of the things they can do and some of they can't within the ASI structure. So some of the things that I teach at the ASI is not only to use the website system that they have to the fullest, so making sure they optimize with the right keywords and things of that nature, which are sort of standard SEO practice. And if they want to download my app, both of my books are absolutely free on the Google Play Store and the App Store, so they can get busy right away, spend some quality time with me, and listen to Findability Formula, which is all about search engine marketing, and then Thumbnomics, which is all about social media marketing. So my second point of my comment here on this is get fun and have fun with social media. I mean, social media is a big part of the Google algorithm. I mean, it's not good enough for you to have a website that just says how great you are and lists your products. You have to socialize around that. So have fun. Create Pinterest boards. Pinterest boards will rank in Google. Optimize your Facebook and your Twitter and your LinkedIn profiles, and have fun inside of social. Don't treat it like a chore. Treat it like something where you are connecting with customers who are having fun. They're engaging. They're not ready to be sold. They want to engage. And I think that's the one big missing piece that I have experienced with ASI members is that they're just hesitant about social media. They haven't really fully engaged.
Heather, you touched on this a little bit, and it's the idea of keywords. But how can you figure out, or how can ASI distributors figure out the best keywords to place on their site? And then, second to that, where should you make sure you're placing those keywords on the site?
Boy, that's a big question in a short period of time. I'm like, wow, okay. Name that tune in 2 notes.
We'll give you 3 notes.
I could take 3 notes. So, again, on my app, if you search for Heather Lutzy, Lutze, a lot of people spell my name wrong, there are a number of tools you can run on your website. And I have a number of keyword tools. But the one tool that would be able to get there quickest is a website called SpyFu, like Kung Fu, but SPYFU. And you can go in and you can run a report on your website and see all the keywords you currently rank for, as well as run some reports on some competitor sites if you choose and see what keywords they rank for. And then use their keyword research tool, and you can come up with all different kinds of phrases. And the bottom line, and I hope you attend an ASI convention and come see me speak, but the bottom line is you need to be in touch with your customers, and you need to use their language, and you need to use it as part of Findability University, we train people on how to, what I call the THBLI. So hopefully people are listening can write that down. Title, headline, body, links, images. I like to call it THBLI, or the BUILT method, someone told me recently. And just make sure your keyword are in those critical elements: title, headline, body, links, and you've named your images with that keyword. If you do just that, you will be probably 90% ahead of most of your competitors. But you got to use the right keyword, and that's the nuancing that often goes wrong.
Heather, let me follow up on that for a second. We have a lot of distributors, people that sell in our industry that sell to market specific. They might be focused on the education sector or the healthcare sector. Those are two major buyers of promotional products. Do you suggest when they're specifically targeting different niche markets that they have basically different sites, different websites for each of those markets, or can they kind of be an all-in-one?
Yeah, no, you definitely want to have one core house with lots and lots of rooms. So you don't want to have 4 houses, okay? So first of all, most business owners cannot manage 4 houses. They can't manage 4 sites. It's just too much maintenance and work. So, and Google expects, I mean, everyone sees Wikipedia everywhere. Wikipedia is everywhere because it's a massive index under one roof that has hundreds and hundreds of doors under every single possible category. So what I want ASI members to understand is that they have different niche markets. Either create a group of pages on their site that speak specifically to that market, and don't put them all together. Don't just have a services page that says we do healthcare and government and this and that. When Google comes to that page, it's like, where do you want me to put this page again? Right? So it's like pick a lane and focus one page at a time on those niche markets.
So I guess just following up on that about the niche markets, and let's say you get to a point where you have the keyword, you know what keyword you want to place on your site, and you know kind of what you want to go with, maybe social media. But one of the main issues is now you have to actually create content. So you know, content is king. If that's what people are coming to your website to learn about. And if you're dealing with a niche market, they want to know content for that niche market. So it's sort of, what are the best practices for creating content? What are some ideas about where you can get the content from?
Well, I know this is probably the biggest thing that slows website projects down in my experience over the last 14 years, is this is where they slam shut. And the companies have, I think, they overestimate their ability to write this content. And so a couple things my clients have done is, first of all, they conquer and divide. So each person takes a page or takes a series of pages, and they all have very deadlines they have to do. Now, once they get those, then they give those to a copywriter or an editor, and then that editor kind of culls it together for the same voice and the same outcome. So that works really, really well. Now, when it comes to ongoing content generation, like blogging and social content, either have interns come in. Most of the local trade schools and creative schools, those students are looking for job credits and job help, and I've found a number of really great interns that really know social media, and I've gotten them for free. I got an intern over this summer for 45 hours. No, I'm sorry, I take it back, 120 hours. And she did all this work for me for free because she needed that work for her final, marketing degree. So another thing is to, split amongst the different people when you have your staff meetings every Monday. Decide who's going to write a blog post that week, and then rotate out every single week. It doesn't have to be, a masterpiece. It just has to be, I'd say, a minimum of 300 words per blog post. And, most people can fall out of bed and write 300 words in an email. I think a lot of people overestimate how much content they need to create. It's not so much how much you're creating, it's the consistency by which you create it.
Gotcha. So as far as social media is concerned, we talked a little bit about that, but what are your preferred networks? What do you think the ASI distributors should really make sure that they're on as far as social media is concerned?
There's a lot of interesting judgment around social media. I find that, especially with my conversation with ASI members, like, well, I'm not on Twitter, or I don't use Facebook. They have very, very specific ideas of what's being used based on their own behavior. And so what I encourage people is to pick one or two. Don't pick them because it's your personal favorite or not. Do it because you feel like that's where most of your clients are. So what I would suggest is that they stay away from like Snapchat, Instagram. It's just not going to really help them that much because that's just a different medium. What I'd recommend is LinkedIn, absolutely. Make sure you have a nice personal profile for everyone in your company, as well as a business group page, and you're posting on there regularly. Also that you're blogging. I mean, blogging is often not seen as a social media, but it really is, because you can share those blogs out to your social circle. Very important that you blog, and blogging has been ignored for a very long time, and anyone who's listening, you need to start blogging. It's very important to Google. And then I would pick between either Twitter or Facebook. But whatever you do it consistently. There's nothing worse than going to a Facebook page and seeing the last post they did was December of 2013, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, okay? So whatever you do, just do it consistently and have a schedule and stick to the schedule.
That's when they ignore you, right?
You're like, what, really? December of 2013 is the last time you blogged or whatever?
So what is when you said earlier about you have to do it consistently? What exactly does consistency look like? Is it so often that you would have to hire somebody to be in charge of the social media efforts, or is it on a more does it matter that it's just on a standard, regular basis?
It depends on the size of the company. My dad ran a trophy store for years here in Denver. He's been an ASI member. I remember growing up as a kid seeing the ASI numbers on all of his ad specialty products and thinking how cool that was. And I didn't know what this magic number was on everything. I thought that was so cool. So I really do understand the mentality of a small business owner and how stretched thin they are. So some challenges or some suggestions I could give is, first of all, look out inside of your employees and their families and see if anyone in there is aspiring to be a social media manager. Start there. If not, then go to a local community college and find someone who is looking for credits or hours. That's another great way. If you have to and you have the budget, by all means, hire someone on a part-time basis to do this for you. Just don't ignore it, okay? I always tell clients, get rid of 2 or 3 things in your marketing plan that you know have not really been working, but you're too afraid to let go. And then apply that to a new strategy for the next 6 months and see how it goes. I think a lot of times, especially my dad, he did Yellow Pages ads for decades. And the ad over time got smaller and smaller and smaller, and pretty soon he let it go. And he could have saved thousands and thousands of dollars. So I just think it's about opening up your mind to small businesses, being creative, and really using all of your resources to figure out how to do it. Let something go and apply it to social.
So you talked about the importance of being on LinkedIn and then trying out other social networks, maybe Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook. What types of content do you think works best on those different social media networks?
Well, I remember one of my ASI sessions, a gentleman said, well, we sell tote bags. And I said, well, tell me more about that. He's like, well, one of our biggest sellers is this pink rhinestone bag. And I'm like, oh, my God, that sounds fantastic. And I was like, I would have never guessed that, right? But he does a lot of work with colleges and sororities and things like that. And I'm like, okay, great. So let's talk about Pinterest and come up with a series called Pretty in Pink. And you show all of your pink rhinestone tote bags in different settings being used in different ways. Give a bunch of rhinestone tote bags to some high school or college students maybe you have in your family network, and ask them to take pictures with theirs as they go through the day and how they use it. And, it's really about having fun. Social media is not a chore. It can really be fun if you open up and say, how can I do this differently? And whether it be Pinterest or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, you got to have that fun in there. So I think that was a great example of thinking like, gosh, am I in just embroidery or am I pink rhinestone tote bag? And so get specific, have fun, and think about the products you sell the most often, and then have fun around those products.
I also find, Heather, that companies in this market, they can have such a great story to tell, but they almost limit it to just the products and not showing or telling the story around those products. I think that's what you're getting at. There's so much application for how the products are used, and they have case studies every day with their clients, and those can be used in pictures and videos and blogs, written blogs that incorporate pictures and videos. But those are all things, I think that people have success with as far as content is concerned.
I always think about those Kellogg's commercials where you see the people on the assembly line with their hairnets.
Sure.
That's a lot different than seeing an actor in a kitchen eating a bowl of cereal. And so whenever I speak to ASI members about their websites and I see logos, and I said, look, you need to show, the reason I hire you It's because I like you, and I like the people that are behind the counter, and I've been coming here forever to get my embroidery work done or buying my ad specialty products from you. I want to see your people, right? I want to see the cool projects you're doing. I mean, my dad does some of the coolest projects for Girl Scouts and for, all different kinds of philanthropic organizations. I said, take pictures of that. Take pictures when they come in and they pick up their orders and they're thrilled. Snap a shot with them. They're missing this opportunity to show their internal reality and the wonderful nature of who they are as a business and the personality. And they show up on social with a logo and a posting of that special for that month.
Right.
And they're missing out on this wonderful personal connection that's already inside their business.
Sure.
So we've covered social media, and social media is one of these areas where it's not necessarily free, especially if you have to hire somebody to do it, but it's low cost. Something that is not always low cost, depending on the category you're in, is Google AdWords. So is this something, is Google AdWords something that small local businesses should take advantage of, or is it something that it's only for the medium or big size guys?
Yeah. Well, I started my formal career with Yahoo Search Marketing, and I trained $1 million advertisers, people spending millions of dollars per month on paid search, which is what you're talking about, is Google AdWords, pay per click. This is a tricky situation because the smaller businesses can't afford to hire a paid search agency. So they start an account, they throw a bunch of keywords in there, not really knowing how to adjust them, and then they get a bunch of money taken off their credit card. And then they're like, well, that didn't work. Forget that. Google, that's not for me, right? So the real problem with paid search is that it is highly skilled work. And unless you're willing to invest in someone who really knows what they're doing, or you're willing to study it and learn how to do it correctly, I would suggest that you focus on Google Local. You participate in social media, you blog, and you have to be very, very careful with Google AdWords because it can be a wonderful medium. It can also suck a bunch of money off your credit card, and you're like, what the heck just happened? And that happens a lot with business owners. So just hire someone that you trust, do a small test, see if it works, then move forward.
So in other words, you really can't go halfway in with Google AdWords. If you're going to do it, you have to be very committed to it, and from a financial and also from a time point of view.
Yeah, it's not inexpensive. Okay, if you're looking for an inexpensive way to market, that's not going to be it. It is quite expensive. We tell clients if you're not willing to spend $1,000 a month minimum with AdWords, you're just not going to have much success because you have to test variants, you have to make sure you get on the first page, preferably above the fold in paid search. There's all these little nuances, and you've got to have enough money, to really massage the accounts. And usually when we manage paid search accounts, in my old agency that I sold a couple of years ago, it would take 6 months for us before we would really get that to hum and to really be performing. And people just think it's more instant gratification because they see their ads up there right away, and that just is not the case.
I think that $1,000 a month number, though, is good for people to know. I think that when they get into AdWords or even just any kind of paid search, they're confused as to where there's either a breaking point or whether they're spending enough or whether they're not spending enough or where the return might be. And if they had that kind of baseline, then maybe there is something that they could at least be knowing that they have to shoot for.
And it probably sounds like a lot of money. And if it sounds like a lot of money, then there's lots of other things you can do that aren't as costly. But it does really take a beefy budget, and that's small comparatively. And the risk is so high to make a mistake that just eats that up in 24 hours.
Sure.
And the nuancing in paid search is remarkably interesting, but also difficult. So my first book, Findability Formula, the whole book is around how to set up pay-per-click accounts. So if they want to really dive in, they have someone in their company and they want to tackle it, by all means, give it a go. Google AdWords has a wonderful online certification program. Anyone can go through it, and I think last time I checked, it was either $99 or $50 or something like that. And then you become Google AdWords certified. So my suggestion is if you have someone or yourself that's going to tackle this, do the AdWords certification. You will learn so much, and then you'll be able to go in there with confidence to spend the money that you feel like is appropriate. But if you do the work and get the certification, then at least you're going in there with eyes wide open.
All right, Heather, thanks very much. Can you give before we let you go, can you give maybe a quick example of a business-to-business company that you've seen, maybe that you work with or that you've seen online that you think is really doing something well? Maybe we can give a quick example to our audience so they can go check them out.
Let's see. What would I say about that? Well, a couple things would be we worked with an ASI member company with the Florida State Parks, and they run the shop.floridatateparks.org. And it was very interesting. We met for a day, and with their team, we went through and figured out what were all the nuances, not just people searching for, like, alligator. They sold, like, all kinds of Florida State Park products. And I think what was interesting is that people weren't searching for alligator backpacks, and they weren't searching for, not alligator, but you know what I mean, like alligator animation backpacks and kids' activities. They were searching for things to do in the park. And when we started to really dig in there, they did a brilliant job of coming up with a content marketing plan that was based around what people wanted when they visited Florida. And it wasn't that they knew they wanted to go to Florida State Parks. They didn't know that yet. All they knew is they were Googling phrases like family vacation Florida, right, and things of that nature. And so they came up with a plan that focused on families with children who were looking for things to do when they visited Florida, and not just focused on things that they sold in their store.
Right.
And I think they had this huge epiphany that we can connect with them in a much more meaningful way if we understand what their end goal is, which is to have fun with their family in Florida, and not that they're selling, hats and backpacks to Florida State Park visitors. So they're doing a really great job. So shop.floridatateparks.org, and they were an ASI member, so you can learn a lot from them, and they're part of the community.
Well, I think that's a great example. It touches on the point that we were discussing before, which is people in this market have such a great story to tell, and they just need to tell it in a way that isn't always about the products, but more what the products did and who they were given to and why they were chosen, and what people felt like when they got them. There's an emotional attachment to receiving those that distributors can really capitalize on.
Yeah, don't forget, their purchases are emotionally based, and when I get up in the morning and I'm looking for a whole team's worth of embroidery, I'm not thinking embroidery company Denver or whatever. I'm thinking about something that's unique, something that's going to make my team look great, inspire them to win, and we just have to keep an eye on the customer at all times.
Very good. Well, Heather, thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks for your insights. Will we see you in Chicago in a couple weeks?
Yes, I'm doing 3 sessions there. So if they're interested in online marketing, social media, please attend my sessions. I'd love to have as many people as possible, and we'll uncover a lot of the things that we talked about today.
Great. Well, make sure to check out Heather Lutzy at the ASI Show Chicago, July 14th to 16th. And Heather, thanks again, and we'll see you soon. All
right. Thanks again for having me. It was great.
You bet. All right, Nate, how did that strike you?
You know what? This is one of these areas when you look at social media, it's one of these, everybody thinks they know how to use social media until they actually try to use social media. Right. It's not as simple. There's only so many cat videos you're going to post for your business that are going to be interesting to people.
Well, you might post them.
I don't mind posting cat videos. I'm just saying it probably is not good if you're trying to create your Facebook post as a business generating idea.
Right. Yeah, that's why I wanted to get into content with her a little bit, because I think people are confused as to what to post and what they can use. And really, the point is, I think that anything in your everyday work life can be turned into something that's a blog post or just a simple, gallery of photos.
Well, one best practice I've heard, and I am not very good at this, but it is a good best practice that I would like to follow, is when you're in the mood to write social media posts, you write about 15 or 20 of them at a time for the course of the year. If you look at a calendar, you can find 15 or 20 different areas over the course of a year, whether it's a holiday, a major event, or whatever, and you just put them on a calendar and say, on this date, I'm going to post this. On this date, I'm going to post this, because that takes 10 seconds. Right. Having to sit there and come up with an idea when you have writer's block, and as an editor, I'm sure you've experienced this once or twice in your life. It's something where once you're in the zone for writing it, just bang out as many as possible and then post them as the dates come due.
Right, and you have so many stories at your disposal there. Every time you're fulfilling an order, for a charity walk. You take some pictures of things that are being boxed up, and you tag the company that you're sending them to. You post that to Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, and and then you talk about the nonprofit market. You talk about charity walks and fundraisers and how promotional products can help those. You have something in your office every day that is its own unique story, and that's something certainly to capitalize on.
I agree.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we are all out of time for today, but